Hello and welcome to Upstack America's Oracle EBS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America. And with me today I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant. And today we are handling lesson 6 of the fixed assets module. And Victor, please walk us through.
Thank you, Bob, for the introduction, and welcome everybody to this lesson in our Financials Functional Training series. In this session, we're going to continue where we left off. We talked about doing setup steps in FA, and so we are going to continue from there, from what we were able to do in our previous session. So in our previous session, we did assign ourselves an FA responsibility, the fixed assets manager, and we started on some of our steps, which were to create the key flex fields. We created the asset category flex field. Okay, so now we're going to create the other two, the asset key and the asset location flex fields, so that we can continue with the next steps on our setup plan. All right. So, like I said, we have done this part, and we created four major categories: computing equipment, vehicles, we had earth movers, and furniture, and their subcategories. Okay. So now let's talk about creating the location flex field. Okay. So it's not that much different from what we did when we were creating the asset category flex field. We need to create the value set. We can create this as a dependent value set, whereby when you select the first segment, which is the state, then the second segment gives you the list of cities. We can do it that way. But remember, we said you are allowed up to a maximum of 7 segments in this flex field. So when you're creating your flex field, you should be aware of that, the limits on what you have to work with. So after we create our value sets, we can go ahead and create the structure itself and qualify the segments. Remember, we said for the location flex field, we have to qualify one segment as state. And the importance of this is that it helps when calculating property tax liability. All right. And so after we have done these first two steps, we can go ahead and add values to the value sets for this particular flex field. All right. So let's go to Oracle. Let me log out here. So I can use the fixed assets manager responsibility or any other responsibility to take me to the account to the flex field window. So you can go set up financials flex fields, key, and segments. But the first step, remember, is to create the value set. So let's do that, and the navigation is going to be set up financials flex fields, validation, and sets. Now, before we do this, actually, let me go to that particular flex field and see what is attached there. So remember I told you for FA in a single installation you use the same flex field. So FA is not multi-org based module or application. All right. So regardless of how many, let's say, companies you want to manage assets for, you're going to use the same flex fields, these three key flex fields: the asset category, the location, and the asset key. All right. So for instance, in our case, in the instance that we are using, we are all going to see the same key flex fields. Okay. So regardless of the fact that we are basically managing, or we are creating setups which could be considered for different companies or something like that, but for this installation or for our instance, we are going to be seeing the same flex field. So when you are configuring these flex fields, or when you're creating this structure, you should be very considerate in that sense and design them in a way that will be able to accommodate all these kinds of assets that may be present, okay, and to capture all the dimensions that may be required for these assets. So let's go to I want to see what is attached there currently. So basically the way to separate assets that you are managing for different companies is to create different corporate books, okay? But in terms of the categories, they will be the same. All right. Well, let's not say they will be the same, but the structure will be the same. You can have one category that's associated with one book, but it's not been associated with another. But in terms of the structure, that is the number of segments in the category flex field and in the location flex field and the asset key flex field, they will be the same, all right, for a single installation. So this is the location flex field. Let's see what is present here. So this is what has been created, okay? These are the two segments, the state and the city. Let's see whether this state has been qualified as a state segment. No, actually. So that's one thing we need to do. Right. So here is what I am going to do. Instead of making changes to the value set that is attached here, what I am going to do is I am going to go and perhaps I can change the name of the window prompt here so that we don't see this first name here for whoever created this structure or these segments. And I can also change the name of the value set, all right, to a more generic name. And so what we can do is, if you want to have a location for your setup, perhaps that doesn't exist in this value set, you can just go and add that location to this value set. Okay, because we are all using this same location flex field. So instead of changing the value sets and this structure every time a person is doing their own setup, we can just go, I can change this name here, just remove this first name and leave it as state and city. I can also change the name of this value set and maybe change it to AA state and AA city, which I also just don't have to do, but perhaps it's better so that when you're querying for that value set, you can know what you're looking for. And then we can just add values to this value set for different states and cities. And if yours is not there, you can go and add the state and the city. Just remember to keep it clean, keep your punctuations correct, and just follow the correct way in which the values have been added in these value sets, okay? So to make changes, of course, I have to unfreeze the Flexfield definition, okay? Then I'll go to segments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this window prompt here. Okay. And I'm going to save that. Then next, I'm going to go and change the name of this value set. So I'm going to go to Setup, Financials, Flexfields, Key, then Values. No. Setup, I should go to Validation. So Setup, Financials, Flexfields, then Validation, then Sets. So I'm going to look for, I think, what okay. Why can't I find it? Perhaps the punctuation. Okay, so all right, so those are the two value sets. We have state and city. So let's start with city. Let's look at how these settings have been entered. So it is a dependent value set. All right. So what we can do is just change the name here instead of Pesh, I think, and can put AACT. And we can also change the description, city for asset location. And save. And then let's go to state and also change this name to AA state. We can say state for asset location. Let's save our work. So we have changed the names of the value sets. Okay. So in terms of this, everything has already been done. The value sets have been created, and they've been created in this way, where one is a dependent value set. The city is dependent on the state. So we need to go and check whether these qualifications, segment qualifiers have been done. So let's go back there to set up financials, Flexfield, key segments. Let me add this to my top 10 list. So you see the name of the value set has changed here. So that's fine. Okay. So now let's see about the qualifiers. Let's qualify this first segment here, state, as the state segment. Okay, and save our work. Right. So we can say that our location flex field is complete. We can freeze the flex field definition. The other thing I want you to notice is that dynamic insertion is allowed for this. So you can either enable it or disable it. We couldn't do that in the category flex field, right? So let's freeze our flex field definition. Yes, we do want to save the changes and let that compile. So let's go to that value set and see what values are in there. Which value set is now called AA. So we have AA state and AA city. So let's start with state. Okay, it has states for Canada, so we can add more states, even for the US. All right, so if you want to add your location, maybe your location is not here, so you can just come in to this value set and add it instead of creating your own value set. All right, so that we don't have to make changes to this location flex field. Okay, so I'm going to add Florida here. And I'm also going to add Massachusetts, which I still don't know how to spell. I think that's the spelling. Massachusetts. Those are the two states I can enter some cities for. Okay, so if you have your own state, you for the location of your setup, just come here and add the state, okay? And then you can go and add the dependent values, which are the city. So let me save this. Okay. And I can go and check on the other value set, which is AACT. So let's find this. So we can enter values for Florida, Massachusetts, and Ontario. Ontario already has some values entered for it. So let's enter some values for Florida. can have Tampa here. Can have Jacksonville. And let's put the last one, Miami. Okay, we can save that. So those are the cities that will show up when you select the state of Florida. You can add more cities here also. Go to Massachusetts. Okay. So if you also have more cities in Massachusetts, you can come and add them here. So like I insist, instead of changing the value set that is attached, just come and add your values here so that we keep some uniformity, or we avoid making some changes to the flex fields. All right. Okay, good. So we have created the location flex field. This is what it looks like. So now finally we can go ahead and create the asset key flex field or configure it. Since the path is the same, create the value set, create flex field structure, and qualify segments, and add values. These qualify segments really shouldn't apply here. We said asset key flex field, you enter descriptive non-financial information. So this could be let's say anything that the client would like to track on the assets, or would like to group the assets by, that's non-financial in nature. So here is what we're going to do. For ours, we're going to track by this this method or this basis that I have created here. We're going to track it by the type of project or business or division it belongs to. So I'm trying to make it as broad as possible so that we can accommodate all kinds of setups you guys might have. Okay. So I'm going to have this value set, and it's going to have all these values. Training, some of the values are the ones that the previous students have been using. So instead of changing the value set, we're just going to add new values to that value set and change the name of the value set to reflect that this is what this asset key is tracking. And we'll also have a not applicable value just in case you don't have a value that you can select for this particular flex field. So, and apologies for this mistake, it should be asset key, not asset category. Okay. So let's go to segments and see what is attached there. So we have our location Flexfield, asset key Flexfield is what we want. So this is what is here at the moment. So we are going to change the window prompt, and we're also going to change the name of the value set, but we're not going to change the value set here that's attached, just the name, and then we're going to add some more values that we can pick from. Okay, so let's unfreeze this first so we can make changes. Again, here dynamic insertion is allowed. Probably won't be able to see this whole thing on division. On the window prompt, but that's fine. So we can save this. You're probably going to get that message, no? Then now we can go and change the name of this value set. So let's go to key financials validation down here. And sets. So let's look for that value set there, which is this one. And we can change the name of the value set to AA underscore project business stroke division. Okay, so that's the new name of our value set, and we can say description. No, asset key description. Okay, and we can save our changes. So if we go back there, we expect to see that the name has changed. All right, so that's the name of the value set attached there. Those are the only changes we are going to make. Okay, and we can freeze our flex field definition. We have made the changes required. Leave dynamic insertion on. Save our work, and flex field was compiled successfully. So we can go to that value set and add some more values. So these are some of the values that exist here already. So I'm going to add some more. I'm going to add the ones, of course, associated with Maskani. So industrial industrial plants. Then we can have the description for industrial plants. We can have retail of the single family homes. Single family homes. Control down, and then we have apartments, I believe. Me add a few more. I try to look at some of the value sets that you have created to get a sense of what kind of classifications you're using. So I have some saying commercial, residential, commercial. Then we have, I think, residential. So if you have maybe a classification that you want that you're using in your setup that is not here, just come and add it. Make sure you add it properly, like the formatting is correct. Just keep the value set neat so that it doesn't look like chaos because it's being used by a lot of people, right? And don't make any changes that will inconvenience other people. And we have this not applicable value that you can always use if you don't want to add a new value, and you have to select this for your key. All right. So we can save our changes. So we have created our 3 key flex fields that allow us to group assets by categories, by location, and by asset key. Okay. So the next step from there is to configure the system controls. And in order to configure system controls, this is the navigation that we have to follow. Set up asset system controls. So let's head on over there quickly. It shouldn't take us long. So set up asset system controls. Now, I just wanted to show you that these values have already been entered, all right? And this goes back to the point that I was telling you for FA, it's not a multi-org based application or module. For modules like AP, we would go and configure settings for a particular operating unit, right? Even for settings that were global or for the whole installation, for what was it, for suppliers under the payables system setup. Even for those ones, you could still go and specify some values at the operating unit level, okay? But here, these system controls will work for the whole installation. And that is why you can see, because of course there are other people who have been working on this instance and have worked on the FA module, there are values that are already entered here. And these are the same flex fields that we've been working on. So the vision category flex field, the location flex field, and the asset key flex field. Those are the ones we've actually been making those changes to. And that's what is shown here. The enterprise name is what appears on reports. So we could change here and put Maskani or whatever. Now, the thing is that for a project, then the enterprise will be a particular enterprise that you're working with, so it won't be a problem. But for us, since we all have our own setups, we have Maskani, maybe you have your own name, we just have to work with what is here. We could change and put what you can change and put your own, but then that will just lead to the other person changing and putting their own. So it doesn't really matter as long as you understand what this window does. Okay. You have the oldest date placed in service. Date placed in service is for assets. When you add assets to your books, you indicate when it was placed in service. You can say it's like when it was started being used, right, for income generating purposes, and also that will be determined when depreciation starts to be calculated. Okay. You also have the starting asset number. You can have manual and you can also have automatic. Okay. So here you can see the starting asset number has been selected as 100,000. So this is basically what you have to fill out for the system controls. Okay. I just wanted to show you that it's already been filled, and it goes back to the fact that for a single installation, you do your system control setup once when it comes to FA. All right, so that's good, and we are going to continue now from there and look at book controls when we go to our next session. So Bob, unless you have something to add, we can stop there. Hello, Bob.